A record 90,000 Arizona kids have opted out of the traditional public school system, instead using the state's Empowerment Scholarship accounts, ESAs, to fund their education. Of course, these are funded by state tax dollars, and since becoming a universal voucher program in 2022, the budget for ESAs has ballooned nearly to $1 billion a year. I'm senior investigator Melissa Blasius, and I've been reporting on ESAs and the controversies about them for years. And I'm joined by Tom Horne, Superintendent of Public Instruction for the state of Arizona. Tom, thank you very much for being here with us today. If it's all right, we'll just launch right into it.
It's a pleasure to be with you.
Great. Well, tell me first of all, for our viewers who don't know, what were ESAs intended to do and what expenses are generally covered?
Well, ESAs are for if a student wants, if students' needs are not being met in public schools, the parents have the ability to place them in a school where the needs are being met, which I think is a very good thing. And we will pay tuition up to about $7,000 a year for regular students. Special ed students might get $20,000, or in some extreme cases $40,000, because there's a lot of services they need that they would get in the public schools. And so, and then we have some. That's about 80% of the students on ESAs. The other 20% includes special ed students and homeschoolers.
And these homeschooling families can kind of really do an a la carte education, right? They can
Yes,
teach some things at school, they can hire tutors to do some things, they can get materials, they can do online classes, a variety of options, right?
that's correct, yes.
Now,
One thing I should add, though, they have to sign a statement to qualify for ESA funding. They have to sign a statement that they will teach their children reading, math, science, and history. So they can't just do anything. They need to be teaching their students the academics that the students will need to succeed in life and in the economy.
as we've seen this program evolve, we've seen some interesting spending choices by parents, to
Yes.
say the least, right? 2 years ago, we talked extensively about this, about grand pianos and ski passes and food dehydrators and $1,000 hydroponic growing systems, things that seemed somewhat questionable. After that, you made some changes to the handbook, right?
Yes, I did, and I did it when I took office. Really, my predecessor was not a supporter of ESAs, and she paid for anything people wanted, and then that information. So there were some outrageous payments, and that information would get to Save Our Schools, which is against ESA, and they would go on television or radio and say, "Look what a wasteful program it is. They pay for ski tickets or whatever." So I established two principles. Number one, all expenditures have to be for a valid educational purpose. And number two, it has to be a reasonable cost according to what's available on the market to meet the student's needs, as identified in the first category. And so those are the two principles we've implemented since I took office. Now, there's a couple of state senators who are extremists who claimed I didn't have any authority to do any of that. If people had money in their account, whatever they asked for, they should have. Parents know best, and in most cases, parents do know best, but there can be exceptions. So this state senator got angry at me for having these guardrails, and he said he was going to recruit someone to run against me. And he did. He recruited Kim Yee to run against me, who was taking this position that I don't have authority to limit what's paid out. So if that was what I had been doing, or if she gets selected, that's what she does. Here are some of the things that we would have paid for that I did not pay for: a $5,000 Rolex watch, a $24,000 golf simulator, $60,000 worth of crystals, obviously a business for the parents and no benefit for the students. And believe it or not, somebody asked for a vasectomy testing kit. So, so if you think we should be paying those things, vote against me. But if you think we need to maintain those guardrails, that's what I'm doing.
So, though this year, a whole new crop of questionable expenses have cropped up, in part because of this policy that came into effect about a year ago, that says that the ESA program isn't going to pre-approve expenses less than $2,000, that'll be maybe audited at a later time. Why did you even do that in the first place?
Well, here's the problem we had. The program has grown from like 10,000 to 90,000. The number of people we have that the legislature funds to do the checking to be sure we don't pay for $5,000 watches and so on has remained the same. So they're terribly overburdened. They're working very hard, very heroically. The governor's representative said they were inefficient administrators. That's the exact opposite of the truth. They're working very heroically to get it done. They can working hard. They can process 500 requests a day. They're getting 1,000 requests a day. So the result was long delays in reimbursements. And a lot of people couldn't afford it. They'd paid out their own money. They needed to be reimbursed. So the legislature passed a law saying we could do what's called risk-based auditing, which is a very common practice. The IRS uses it. A lot of government agencies use risk-based auditing. And so we said, okay, up to $2,000, we'll pay it right away, but that doesn't mean we're approving it because we will audit it later. We have audited after those payments have been made, and we have recovered, or in the process of recovering, over $600,000 of payments for things that weren't appropriate. So we're working very hard in our auditing to be sure that these things, don't just go through, but if we find that somebody's asked for something that's inappropriate, they have to either pay it back or it gets charged to their account, or in some cases we've had to send it to the Attorney General for a lawsuit to get the money back.
Have you removed any children from the ESA program because their parents aren't spending the money right?
Yes, we have. Yeah. If it's outrageous enough, we cancel them out of the program.
The issue comes down to the backlog and having enough people to process. But
Right.
my understanding is that there's only maybe a dozen people in the ESA program who are doing this kind of processing and auditing
That's
of
correct.
expenses.
With 90,000 people in the program. Now, 80% of it is private schools, so they don't have to do that. But the other 20% has grown tremendously. And as I say, they're working very hard, but they can't keep up.
Why not? Because there's been discussions about this, and there's been some offers for potential funding to expand the number of people who are working on processing these ESA expenses in your office.
We've been lobbying for that. And last year, the House had it in their budget. But as you remember, the House was the last to pass a budget that the governor ultimately signed. And the governor said, if you don't get those ESA expenses out of the budget, I'll veto again. And they were up against a deadline of a shutdown. So they had to take it out. But this was, I think, an irrational thing for the governor to do.
So will you go back to the governor this year and say, will you
Yes.
go to the governor and say, we need these monies to approve?
Yeah,
Because
she's against ESAs philosophically. She thinks if the students' needs aren't being met in the public schools, that's tough. The parents don't have any choices. But it doesn't mean she should think it's a good thing not to have enough people to audit on a timely basis.
Because, I mean, what do you think the fraud rate or the misspending, inappropriate spending rate is in with?
It's less than 1%.
But even at 1%, when you're getting close to $1 billion, is $10 million.
But we're catching it. In other words, we're not just letting it pass through. We're catching it, and it's less than 1%. And I think you'd find worse percentages in a lot of government programs. We're working hard. Listen, I'm a former attorney general. I was determined that we wouldn't have any fraud. So I hired an auditor who'd been in the Auditor General's office for 16 years, which the program had never had, and I hired an investigator. And the auditor eventually became the director of the program because he's a very, very talented, hardworking person. So I've been working hard to be sure we have no. Now we found some fraud. We had one where the previous superintendent hired some people that I fired who were in cahoots with people outside the program to facilitate their fraud. And we sent it to the Attorney General for prosecution. And in one case, they lost the case. There was an acquittal, which is surprising because it was obvious fraud.
Well, that is how the court system does work. So let's move on to another topic,
Yes.
okay? Shall we? Let's talk about. There's been a lot of discussion recently about money that's allowed to kind of stockpile in families' ESA
Yes.
accounts. Why aren't parents using all of their money?
Well, some of them may want to save money for college for their kids. We haven't resolved that yet. The question of taking back money that's not used, that's still being debated. Is saving it for college not a proper use of that money or not? But that hasn't been resolved.
How long are you allowed to leave money in an account without touching it before the state's going to claw it back?
I could be wrong, but I don't remember any hard and fast rules on that.
With 400 million sitting unspent, should the state start clawing some of this back?
Well, this is probably, but it hasn't. There hasn't been a final decision on that.
The do we know at this point any more about these accounts with all these millions and millions of dollars just sitting there? Are some of them abandoned accounts by families that have either put their kids back in public schools or moved out of the state?
That I don't know. Now you need to know when money is spent, it comes from the treasurer. So all of this money is in the treasurer's office. So is it in column A or is it in column B? It's not like it's in different places.
The so I mean the state still has control of the money, but it's earmarked for these particular families. if they
Right
wanna
now
use
it is, yes.
The who's looking into this issue, because it's an important issue to a lot of people that money is just sitting out there not being used
Well,
today.
when you say it's not being used today, but people are saving it for college, and so that's an interesting philosophical question. Is that a valid thing for them to do? And there just hasn't been resolved.
Well, I'm asking you, is that a reasonable thing to do?
I'm not. I haven't reached a conclusion myself. On most things I have, and I have a lot more controversies than a lot of other elected officials. But on this one, I have not resolved it.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit more about these the audits that you're talking about, going back and auditing these expenses that are less
Yes.
than $2,000, which often are applying to the families that are kind of homeschooling or doing a la carte schooling,
Yes.
as I'm referring to it here. Your agency, the ESA group, was supposed to be meeting with the state auditor general's office to discuss how to make these audits happen. Last month, State Senator Mark Fincham said, I want to see you guys do it within 2 weeks. That was about 3 weeks ago. Have you done it?
I'll have to ask John, who's the head of the program, whether he's done it. But I will tell you that there have been some. John, he works very hard. John does, and there have been some unreasonable burdens that the Auditor General wanted to put on him, and he has to prioritize what are the most important things for him to do. If they haven't met, they certainly will meet quickly, and they may have met. He just hasn't told me. But one problem that we have that has to be resolved is the law says we have to consult with the Auditor General. And the Auditor General thinks that means that she gets to dictate to us what to do, and we think it doesn't mean that. If you look up consult in the dictionary, what it means is we have to talk together and listen to her before we make the decision. So that's something that has to be resolved.
So when are you going to really talk with her in earnest and get it resolved?
Well, somebody else may have to make the decision, perhaps the Joint Legislative Audit Committee. We'll have to make a decision. Does she get to dictate, or does the word consult mean what it means in the ordinary English language?
I guess let me ask you this: how is the Department of Education proposing to do these audits?
We've been doing them. I told you we're at $600,000 of money that we've either gotten back or in the process of getting back. In some cases, they have a monthly plan to pay it back. Some cases, we've taken money out of their accounts. Some cases, outrageous cases, we've taken them out of the program. So we're doing the auditing, and $600,000 is a lot to recover back.
Has the ESA program heard directly from the Auditor General about what the Auditor General might want to see differently in the audits?
I haven't been part of those discussions. John Ward is doing those discussions with them.
Let me ask you this: the kind of computer system that helps process these reimbursements, Class Wallet is what it's called.
Yes.
Right. So we understand that there may have been some sort of discussion about an AI program that could flag certain expenses,
Yeah.
and is that still a viable
Well,
option?
we're very anxious to do it. Here's the problem. First of all, let me just tell you that the vote to choose Class Wallet over their competitors was, I think, 6-1. There was one vote against it, and somebody was a grudge against them. But this was composed of employees of the Treasurer's Office and of our office who all considered Class Wallet is the best of what's available. And some of these others that competed now have gotten in trouble with other states where they've had to pay big fines or they've been terminated and so on. Now, somebody went to the legislature and said, when parents pay private school tuition, they process it through Class Wallet, and Class Wallet takes a fee. Let them pay it directly and be reimbursed, and they'll save that fee to Class Wallet. Well, that removed a lot of income that Class Wallet was counting on when they signed the contract. And so at one time they were enthusiastic about getting this AI done for us. If the AI done, once that's done, we can do a lot of things we couldn't do before. We can get everybody debit cards. We can process efficiently with less people. But now they're not sure they can do it because they have so much less income. So some way has to be found for them to get the kind of income that they were expecting when they signed up.
Before we wrap up, let me give you an opportunity to just speak in general, because for very much of the early years here of the Universal ESA program, you have been state superintendent. So this is all developed under your watch, or a great
and
deal
my
of it.
predecessor, yeah.
But a great deal of it.
Yes.
And so this will somewhat be the legacy of your term in office here.
Yes.
What do you want the voters to know about what's happened with this program and overall where it stands today?
Okay, let me say it's part of my legacy, but our main focus is on helping the public schools do better academically. I'm the state superintendent of public education, so that's my main effort, and we have 15 initiatives. I'm personally involved in every one, so I'm working hard on that. As far as ESAs go, we have families, let's say 3 children. 2 of them are doing just fine in the local schools, but even a good public school may not meet the needs of all the students. The third child's needs are not being met, and now the parents can find a school that doesn't meet the child's needs. And I really do not understand how anybody could say the parents don't have a right to do that unless they're so immersed in their ideology that they forget about the needs of the students.
As far as you can see into the future, ESAs are here to stay in Arizona.
Absolutely. I mean, you want to take choice away from 90,000 parents who found a better way to educate their kids, you'd have a big fight on your hands.
Okay. Thank you very much for your time,
Thank you.
Superintendent Tom Horne. And if you want to see more about our reporting on ESAs and the state of education in Arizona, go to our website, abc15.com.